So every now and then you get a chance to chop it up on a Sunday afternoon with Jerry Ellenburg. How you doing, Jerry?
Good, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So you've been a busy man the last couple of months. Would you say you've been a little bit busy?
Yeah, been pretty at it, working pretty hard. Thanks to you.
So you learned about Bitcoin, right?
I've learned. Yeah, I think I'm an elementary school student now. I think I'm coming along.
Okay, great. So what would you say are three of the biggest things you learned in the last, say, 4 months about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin community?
Well, it's clear that this has become what's considered a new form of reserve currency. It's an asset that's being protected and saved. It's not being doesn't seem like it's being used for consumption. It's While still considered a commodity, legally, it really is acting as a currency, and it seems to pass the point of no return relative in terms of what it's going to do value wise. You have turned me into a student of this. I must admit, I came into this not knowing a lot, but the transaction in which we find ourselves has forced me to kind of learn about it, and frankly, regret that I didn't know about it 10 years ago. Me and a few million other people, I suppose.
Listen, every time I think back of all the Bitcoins that I sold 10 years ago to buy, some stupid item that I wanted, I keep thinking to myself, you idiot. Should have
Yeah,
used a credit card and kept the Bitcoin.
yeah, yeah.
So you hit upon some really big things there where it is a reserve currency. You got countries that are using it that way. You got publicly traded companies, over 160 of them right now. And they're not just using it as a reserve currency in a small way, they're using it as a reserve currency in a big way. For example, Michael Saylor from Strategy, a publicly traded company that currently, unless I'm wrong, has about $50 billion worth of Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Now their stock is actually worth 90 billion because people believe that Bitcoin has further to go, that it'll be worth more one day. And I do too. I actually believe that if you bet on Bitcoin, you're actually betting on idiot politicians destroying the US dollar, which they've done for 30 years now. Actually,
Yeah, it's what I would call an inverse valuation. It's pegged to the actual devaluation of the U.S. dollar, and so
exactly.
it's kind of a reverse graph. The Bitcoin graph is going up while the because the dollar graph goes down, basically.
Exactly. And as long as we let politicians keep spending money we don't have and our deficit keeps growing, the future can only be bright for Bitcoin and horrible for the US dollar. Shout out to
Yeah,
all the idiot politicians on both sides of the aisle.
yeah, it is both sides, and it's a trap. It's a governmental trap that goes back decades, and it's going to be a tough one to escape in our lifetime, anyway.
Well, the only way that I think anybody has to escape it is to just escape using the US dollar. You literally have to move your assets into Bitcoin. And then once you're in Bitcoin, you can do a lot of other things like borrow or stake against that Bitcoin,
Right.
which
Well,
is
that's the transaction we find ourselves in now.
exactly. So typically you've done, I want to say you said you did like $600 million worth of commercial financing transactions in your lifetime, right?
Yeah, I think I have around 600 million of debt, institutional debt on my resume as a principal, all paid back, and around 300 million of private and quasi-institutional equity on my resume, primarily in the manufactured home community business.
Okay, so think about this for a second. When you go and get that debt, you go to like a lending institution, like a bank or private equity, correct?
Correct.
And they lend you the money and you pay them interest and principal. Here,
Correct.
for the first time ever, on a commercial note basis, we're giving people with Bitcoin the ability to be the bank. They stake or collateralize their Bitcoin to fund your US dollar needs, your commercial note, and then you pay them interest at 13.95%. And in return, they become the bank, they become the lender.
That's correct. That we will end up in this transaction with a wide collection of lenders, each having a certain piece of this total loan portfolio. And as you know, they get to convert their interest to Bitcoin and put that into its growth process.
Well, it's not that they get to convert it into Bitcoin. You actually pay the interest in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
And
correct.
the reason why that's very attractive is if I'm a Bitcoin holder, and let's say I have $2 million worth of Bitcoin, and I'm going to hold that Bitcoin all the way through the next halvening, which is 2028. And I believe that this Bitcoin has much more potential on the upside than it does on the downside. I'm going to hold that as a strategic reserve for my family, for my business, whatever. But if I'm going to do that, this gives me the ability to still own my Bitcoin and get a yield on top of my Bitcoin. So I'm going to hold it anyhow. Why not get a yield? And in this case, a pretty good yield, 13.95%, paid in Bitcoin on day one, the first year's worth of interest.
Correct. That's the design. And uh, as you've advised me, this 13.95% that is received essentially on day one itself has the chance to grow as the print the stakers principal amount. So there's a cumulative effect there, particularly if Bitcoin continues to go up in value.
Exactly. So if somebody says, hey, I got $2 million worth of Bitcoin, I will stake that Bitcoin, get 50% loan to value, which is $1 million. Take that $1 million and buy part of the commercial note for ERC or golf suites, and then get my interest payment in Bitcoin on day one. If Bitcoin, for whatever reason, during the time of that 5 year note goes up 2x, that person now has, instead of $2 million worth of Bitcoin, they actually have $4 million worth of Bitcoin because they never lost ownership of their Bitcoin. They staked it. And in return, they also got what's 13.95% of a million? They got 139, almost $140,000 in Bitcoin back then. But if it doubled in value, they actually have $280,000 worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah. So
About
that ends up being a 28% yield year one, the potential of a 28% yield.
exactly. And from a person that was going to hold Bitcoin standpoint, they didn't lose the asset, and they were able to significantly grow the asset with the yield paid from the commercial note.
Correct.
Well, this is a hell of an idea, Jerry. How'd you come up with it?
Well, I didn't, as we both know. You did. So, and it was you may notice it was a very easy concept to sell. I think it took about 30 seconds, didn't it?
Well, I
But
don't think it took 30 seconds, but I think you're a pretty sharp guy. You're a former accountant, right?
I'm a CPA. Yeah.
Okay, current CPA. Um, you understand numbers better than anybody I've met in a long time. You get numbers, you get value. And your due diligence and paperwork is amazing, like very transparent, which is mission critical. When you first heard me tell you about this in April, I think it was April. Was it April?
It was as April became May, right? End of April, beginning of May, which, by the way, means it's been a very fast transaction, record speed.
Relatively, yeah. We had a lot of work to do. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think people will understand. Well, there's one guy out there, I'm pretty sure, that's going to say, "Oh, that was easy. That was easy. That was
Yeah.
easy. Jerry got lucky. Jerry got lucky."
Yeah. Right. Right.
So, but I don't think people understand. Like, literally, you've worked on this every single night and day. Like, you'll text me at 2 in the morning. Granted, I'm still working usually, and you'll that shows me you're committed to the project. You're
Yeah.
committed to the future growth and success of Golf Suites and ERC.
Well, yeah, me and the whole team. Some of the others around us. I mean, it's an
Let's give them a
extremely,
shout out. Let's
yeah.
talk about
Well,
your team. Talk a little
my
bit about your team and talk about what role they play.
Yeah, well, I'm co-founder, largest shareholder, and chairman CEO of both companies. I am a CPA. I carry an inactive license, state of California, um, and found myself in my early 30s getting involved in real estate. And like many people, going into a field didn't really predict where it would go. I wake up around the end of the century with the largest mobile home park chain in the country, collecting rents from 26,000 families. And that was all investor backed, primarily investor backed. So we did a lot of investment banking work, a lot of mortgage banking work. Sold that off, got involved in some other businesses, got into the home building business kind of on a semi retired basis. Um, Met and am still in business with since 2010, 2011, Ryan Kennig, who, of course, Chris. Ryan and I co founded both these companies, where I am arguably what you would call a finance guy, a real estate finance guy, a national landlord kind of mentality. Ryan has a similar dollar amount of resume in the world of construction. He has $600 or $700 million of construction completions before age 40, before age 37, actually, working with names that everybody knows: CalPERS, Trammell Crow, Camden, Zarimba, just some of the nation's most prestigious firms as owner rep. Owner rep is basically what it means. He is the representative of the owner, the general contractors, and all the contractors under them answer to a guy like Ryan. You can't drive around Tampa Bay without running into the various buildings he's done. So because of his and my combined relationship, we were able to say that we basically build what we own what we build, and we don't buy anything. We develop it from ground up, and thereby have a what's called a great value add proposition, where we spend $100 to build something. When we're done building it, it should be worth 120, 130. And that's the value add proposition of self-development, self-construction. So he and I make a good team. We have with us my son, Ryan Ellenburg, runs our crowdfunding. Half a decade, he's a Georgia Tech graduate, half a decade at Facebook.
The bumblebees, or what are they? Yellow.
The Yellow Jackets, yeah. Great. I'm very proud of him. Great. It's a great school. And he spent half a decade as an executive at Facebook. So he has all of the social media skills for our public share sales. We have Tracy Rosensteel, who you met at the very beginning. Tracy's our intern.
Rock star.
Yeah, is our internal investment banker. She'll have a major role in this, particularly the refinancing of these assets that we construction finance with you. 20 years on Wall Street.
Talk a little bit about that for a quick second. You just dropped a little knowledge bomb, and I don't think people caught it. So let's say it takes you 18 months to use the $105 million to build out everything.
Yeah.
At the end of 18, let's say 24 months, you're then going to go and get traditional financing to pay off the principal on this.
Well, yeah. The way we characterize this is it's a 5-year kind of development construction line. So we'll constantly be recycling the assets, bringing new assets in, and of course, your group, the investor group, continues to have security on all the assets. So the security base just grows and grows and grows. More assets get developed, and Tracy oversees that. She was 20 years on the street. Has close relationships with floor members of the New York Stock Exchange, and really handles that. She's kind of a protege of mine, Chris. She probably ends up being a real important successor to me. Ken Merlo.
This week. I mean, come on. We
no, I know. No, I got to be around here for a little while.
You can't go straight to the pina coladas on the beach.
Yeah, no, I know. And of course, Ken Merlo, our securities counsel.
Okay, by the way, the first time I've ever said this on a podcast interview, I actually fucking love Ken Merlo. And I've never said that about an attorney before. Shout out to all the attorneys that I've disparaged throughout my lifetime.
Yeah, he loves this transaction. He just loves this. I couldn't get him off the phone today. So that's the core too. We have a lot of support personnel. We employ about 200 people currently in the golf company, about 100 people per location. These are good for about 100 people. The outdoor facilities are good for about 100 people per site. The indoors more like 20 to 30. But it's a very tight crew, very tight. It's really, Chris, it's what I call the circle of trust.
You just mentioned golf suites. What does this get me? I mean, what is this? Can you explain this? Lifetime access card?
Yeah, well, whoever stakes and takes part in our corporate note program will be issued one of these lifetime passes. I've got a batch of them sitting right behind me now, and it will allow people to walk in and get certain perks, a couple of free drinks, maybe an hour of golfing at the facilities during certain hours, but more importantly, show that they're basically have financial interest in it. Because it's a loan, we can't call them owners, but we certainly can say they have a
family. You can call them.
Oh, absolutely. Golf Suites family.
They're part of the Golf Suites community, right?
And the ERC Communities investors, although that's a rental community business. Those Bitcoin stakers will also get these Golf Suites passes, and so it'll we're gonna have to print up a bunch of these, Chris. We're gonna have to print up a bunch more.
You will have to print a few more. I will tell you that. So you give people this lifetime access pass. You're basically creating a community of VIPs, people that you treat special because they participated in the future growth and success of your business.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I got to credit you. I don't know I would have thought about that. Remember, I'm a finance guy, and I can get a little mundane that way. I'm a good salesman, but I don't know.
Let's talk about this for a second, because you've touched upon this more than once. Are you trying to technically say that I'm borderline a genius?
Not even borderline. You're just a genius, and send me that $100 bill you promised me to say that. So anyway,
I'm sending you some Bitcoin right now. What's your wallet?
Yeah, right. this is a as you've advised me, this is the first of its nature in terms of
It's not the
Bitcoin.
first commercial note that's been done with Bitcoin being the staked asset. It's the largest commercial note by far
Right.
history of Bitcoin, $105 million
Yeah.
total.
But I mean, its uniqueness is its variety of assets being financed. And at the outset here, um, three golf facilities and 268 rental units totaling $70 million
Oh,
for ERC.
hold
So
on, wait a
it's a
second.
lot of assets.
Okay, wait a second, because from the accounting standpoint, I want you to do something for people. This commercial note, I've been told, is the most over collateralized note that people have seen. I've heard that over and over and over and over again. Most of the time, when you go to the bank and you say, "Hey, I need $1 million," they say, "Okay, we'll give you 80%. You got to come up with 20% to secure the note." In this case, I want you to talk to people about what's collateralizing all that Bitcoin.
Well, the Bitcoin owners, of course, procure cash by staking their Bitcoin at a 2-to-1 value. They achieve a 50% cash receipt for how much they stake. That money is then lent to us, and that money is used to build these assets. And the appraised value of the completed assets, I memoed you on this morning, comes home at around 40% ERC and between 33 and a third and 75% for the golf company. So the Bitcoin stakers who have collateralized their Bitcoin to make the loans to us essentially retain this security. And as time goes by, Chris, we start paying back these portions of the 105 and redo new assets and new assets. That security batch just grows and grows and grows. At the end of 5 years, when it comes time to pay it off, there could be, good Lord, there could be $500 or $600, $700 million worth of assets securing their
So
loans.
let's talk about that. The commercial note is secured by personal guarantee with you and your leadership, the real estate, the business, and then ultimately the Bitcoin stakers.
Yeah, right.
These commercial notes are literally over collateralized compared to other commercial notes.
Yeah, I agree. And don't forget our franchise company too. I've told you before, the golf franchise company, which this is helping finance. A very small piece is needed for this out of the 105 million. But the franchise company, we have a feeling is just going to be enormous. It's just going to be enormous as time goes by.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I want to talk a little bit now about your vision for ERC. Explain to people exactly what ERC is, because that's 70% of the commercial note that's for 105 million. The other 30% is for golf suites. We'll get to that in a second, but I want you to explain to people what the vision is for ERC and what it is.
Um, ERC borrows from my past in the manufactured home community industry. It is a platform wherein we are using brand new factory built manufactured homes, 1,400 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, separate laundry room, very nice, high quality, FEMA qualified, HUD, FHA qualified homes in communities that we are building. We own 29 acres of land here outside of Tampa where the first 184 units go. And we are bringing those homes on site and we are renting them out. We're renting the homes out and the land in a combined factor facility. And it is a new discipline of real estate to fall into this vast new sector called BFR, build for rent. This build for rent sector, which started with the downturn, the AIG, Merrill Lynch, the whole burnout of 2009, 2008, 2009. These large hedge funds started buying homes, and they ended up with so much inventory, it started really becoming an industry of its own. And we decided to go into this. We can rent these homes out here in metropolitan Tampa in the low 2000, 2050, $2,100 range, competing with apartments that are less than 5 miles away that have 400 square feet less walk up 3 floors and a 150-yard walk to the car. This is a product that is attractive to seniors, and it's also attractive to transition families, young married couple, 32 years old, have their first child or two. They don't care about the swimming pool and the tennis courts anymore. They want to have separate living. So, as you know, Chris, our due diligence package includes a 30, 40-page concept feasibility study on this. Um, and it's just this asset type is just going to explode. Uh, in the ERC model, in this loan concept that we're doing, we're we're not decided yet what we're going to do. We may sell the community off when it's done, or we may portfolio build. If we portfolio build this, we get this thing up to 2,000 or 3,000 rental units. It'll absolutely be a New York Stock Exchange REIT IPO, circa 2028, 2029. We just don't know yet. The value proposition on ERC is so acute that it may just be overwhelmingly tempting to just sell the property off to one of the REITs. We're just not making that decision yet. This is this is non-subsidized, by the way, Chris. Affordable is a dangerous word because many times it means government subsidized. This is not subsidized in any way. It's just a less expensive means of separate living, everything brand new. And by survey, by focus group, it's just going nuts. We think that we will be 100% leased in contract on our first project outside of Tampa here before the first homes moved on site. That's the demand that exists. You probably know that Florida, much like Nevada, where you live, these are two of the states that just have tremendous population expansion. We're a no income tax state, fun state to live in, a lot of water, a lot of golf, and the state's just exploding. You just cannot find housing here. So we'll probably do our first 2,000 or 3,000 units inside this state. Hope that explains it.
No, I think you did a great job. And when you say manufactured homes, I've actually done a lot of looking at manufactured homes lately. They're pretty amazing. Like they are way, way, way different than your.
There's an old commercial from a couple of decades ago that was called, this is not your father's Oldsmobile. I don't know if you remember that commercial, but these are not the trailers that they used to be. They're all built inside. They're weatherproofed in construction. And if you were to come out and see this community we're building, I'd show you some other properties. I'd show you homes that are 40 years old, manufactured homes that are 40 years old from the 80s, even from the 70s, and they just look terrific. And they're not built anywhere near as nicely as ours are. So it's going to be a very, very high demand situation here. The interesting thing, and I'm going to take you into the weeds just for a minute here. I gave you Ryan Koenig's background. Ryan is a man who's built multi-floor apartments, elevator construction. He's done hospitals. His skill set here is to do lateral construction only and bring these homes in. He is literally a plastic surgeon who's going to be doing manicures. He is a plastic surgeon who's going to be doing manicures here. And because it's intellectually less sophisticated than what he's used to, it lends itself to a much broader volume. He can literally build 2,000 units of this at once without any mental challenge.
Jerry, this is going to get a little awkward. Are you trying to tell me that the guy that I know as Ryan Koenig has a BBL, a Brazilian butt lift?
I don't know. You have to ask him that yourself.
All right, now I got something to talk to him when I talk to him later.
Yeah.
Brian, Jerry says you got a BBL. All right, so you've got a team, you've got a plan, you've got a tool to get funding. And now instead of paying the interest to the banks or private equity, you're paying interest in the form of Bitcoin to everyday human beings.
Yeah. Yes. We're going to have a great number of what we'll call lenders here, lenders who become fractionalized members of their bankers. They become bankers essentially.
They become the bank.
There's no getting around that. They really become bankers.
Bitcoin is your own bank. You have the private keys to it. In this case, they're able to use their Bitcoin to stake a ownership of your commercial note, to give a piece to that commercial note.
Right.
They had a chance in May to come to the Bitcoin conference, and you had a chance to have private dinner with the team from Salt Lending. Talk a little bit about how you see Salt playing a role in this, and also talk a little bit about your perspective on them. You got a chance to meet them a couple of times now. You've got a chance to get a feel for their professionalism or lack of it, whatever it is. At the end of the day, talk a little bit about Salt Lending and what their role is.
I was, you go into these meetings, been doing this for decades. You never really know exactly what to
Jerry,
expect.
when you say decades, are you trying to say that you're old as fuck?
I am, yeah. You never know what to expect. when I first met Sean Owen and Hunter Albright, who are the two leading execs at Salt, it was very soon into this relationship. As you know, we were only 3 or 4 weeks into discussion. And thinking about Bitcoin, I didn't know what kind of people I'd be meeting. These two guys, and I think their entire company, are what I call very buttoned up guys. I think you know that, Chris. These guys are Brooks Brothers, three-piece suit. They are extremely buttoned up. And I've dealt with broker dealer groups. I've dealt with investment banking groups. I've got two tombstones sitting on my credenza back here, all both north of $100 million on institutional financings I've closed through the years. And these guys are very much of that nature. And they take this extremely seriously. I noticed they've been very methodical. They haven't rushed anything. And
They
they have,
definitely haven't rushed anything. As much as you
well,
wanted them to rush, they
oh,
definitely
sure.
took their time and got it right.
Yeah. Well, I wanted the loan to close about an hour after you and I met, but
By
that's how guys
the
like
way,
me
if
are
you're
built.
watching this podcast, he's actually not lying. And then
All right.
probably every hour on the hour for the last 4 months.
Anyway, yeah, I'm a nervous Gertie, but they're I just find they're extremely surgical. They've got a huge operation in Denver. I don't know if you know this, but their office is right smack in the middle of the very high rent district. I mean, it's nice to see an old fashioned real company, Chris. Where everybody goes to work every day and and shows up, and that's what these guys are. They've got excellent legal counsel, as you know, that worked with our attorney to get this thing put together. What I think, teasing about how fast I wanted it to happen, the fact is this has happened in record time, and they are reputed to have a zero default rate on 7 years worth of loans that they've done. I presume you know that.
Well,
Uh,
if they tell you it, I can tell you one thing. They've been in the space for 7 years where a lot of companies have come and gone in that space that have done exactly what Salt does. And one thing I know about Sean is he is a high character individual. If he says the sky is blue, it is blue. If he says
right,
that they've had no defaults, they've had no defaults. And I tell you this, in this space, you have to look at the people you do business with very closely. You have to do your due diligence on them. You have to do everything because that's as important as getting the deal done itself. In fact, it's actually the reason why any deal would ever get done. And by the way,
yeah.
shout out to Scott Cohen. Let's not forget him.
No,
He played.
turned out to be a great guy. Ken loves him, by the way. These are two attorneys just
Wait a second.
are just
When you say loves him, does he love him more
well.
than you?
It's prosaic. It's
Where does this
theoretical.
love for Scott Cohen? Is it here and I'm here, or is it the other way around?
No, you're on top of everything.
What's up, Ken?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
But no, it was good to see. You got to admit, Chris, it was good to see the two attorneys working as well as they did. Not
listen,
not that
sometimes you get two attorneys together in a room
uh,
and it becomes a pissing match.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I got to tell you, both of them the whole time were working towards getting across the finish line with this. Neither one of them had an axe to grind. Neither one of them was trying to be the largest cock in the room. And at the end of the day, I think it's because of that attitude where both literally were working towards both clients' best interest that the deal got done as quickly as it did.
right, right. No, very very pleased with that. Now we're big fans of Salt. I just think that I just would like to do this portfolio, expand it after that, and just I'm kind of a one horse man. I'm a very vertical. I like to very narrow in the teams I like to work with, and I'm a big disciple of theirs. Big disciple.
So Salt is your administrator that's going to manage all the Bitcoin that's being staked and all the interest that's paid back in Bitcoin to each individual person, correct?
Right. Correct.
You
Correct. We're
trust them?
gonna
You got to
we're
trust them,
gonna
right?
yeah. Oh, sure. We're gonna deal on our end with strictly with dollars. We don't deal with the Bitcoin side. They're not only a facilitator. You could also call them, Chris. I think you'd call them an intermediary as well because they're going to receive dollars, turn around, convert them, go through a whole procedure there.
They're an administrator. That's exactly
Yeah.
their.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, in the last 4 months, you've learned about Bitcoin. You've aligned yourself with Salt, which you and I both consider the premier administrator for this type of loan in the industry. And now you've got to get to work. All this stuff, whatever you equate it to in the form of hard work, now becomes the hard work. Now, where you have to explain it to people over and over and over again, you have to DocuSign documents all day long because everyone gets a DocuSign document. Talk a little bit about how you and your team are going to handle that moving forward.
Well, we pride ourselves in the expression I use is we like to act like we're the old-fashioned barber shop or the old-fashioned corner grocery store. We're very, very folksy with our investors. We're very non-institutional. And I think that this transaction, Chris, lends itself to a lot of personal interaction. There may be some stakers who just sign the documents and walk along their way, and there's going to be others who really want to know what's going on. Of course, referring to Tracy, Tracy suggested today that I should do a once a week. It should be very publicly known that I do a once or even a twice a week live podcast on just how to go through the transaction in case people have questions. So we're going to any
Well,
ideas that we can come up with to just be extremely visible. We had an entire administrative team. We're very well geared for high volume of investors. Very well geared.
so I think she's got a great point there, and it's not just a podcast where people can learn how to take advantage of the commercial note and stake Bitcoin. I think it has to be a community call where literally once a week, and twice is a lot, but once a week, you give people an option to jump on and literally learn updates, get answers
Sure.
to questions. They can literally
Oh,
put
sure.
questions on your social media throughout the week. You can literally take those questions and answer them all for people. And
Yep.
this way, not only can you do the podcast or the Zoom call, but you can record it and put it up on a central location like YouTube. And people
Sure.
who couldn't make the call can get up to speed on what's going on.
Yeah, and as time goes by, we'll show construction progress. We'll show stuff being built, stuff being opened, and very, very transparent. We're very much that way.
It's
We sell
important.
shares to the public, as you know, and so we're very used to this. And
I,
there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of excitement to share as we build all this stuff.
I think people in the Bitcoin community demand transparency. I think it's absolutely mission critical that you give that to them. That's one thing that people in the Bitcoin community are going to want to embrace with you.
Yeah, good, good.
So I think we've covered a lot here today. From a standpoint of just the human value, what this means to you, what this means to all the people that are staking Bitcoin, what this means to your business and your entire team, all 200 or 400 employees. Talk a little bit about what your vision is for 2, 3 years down the road. What do you see ERC becoming? What do you see Golf Suites becoming?
Well, the terms that I use, these two companies, although commonly owned, are 180 degrees different. ERC is a very quiet rental property, not a lot of promotion going on. It's just very quiet living. The Golf Suites is an extremely active retail experiential, where the term we use in ERC is portfolio build. The term we use in Golf Suites is brand build, and they both have financial derivatives. The in ERC, for example, I just explained a few minutes ago, we might hold the assets, we might sell them. In Golf Suites, there's no sale. We're doing a brand build both in owner operation and in franchise. When you talk about 2 or 3 years down the road, I'd rather say 4 or 5. But the typical question, as you know, Chris, and you come from the securities industry, the typical question is exit strategy. Everybody wants to know exit strategy. And in the case of ERC, to the degree we build portfolio there at large volume, it's a no brainer for a New York Stock Exchange REIT conversion. It's just or perhaps a merger with a major REIT, which might affect the same result. I think that's a half a decade play at 4 years, something like that. In terms of the golf company, which has a much different kind of growth because of the franchise side of the business, it could just have a massively explosive growth. You probably are aware, Chris, of what's going on just on the indoor business of golf right now. You and I have talked about doing one in Vegas. We think the United States, the continental 48 states, we think the continental 48 assimilate easily 5,000 of these indoor locations, easily 5,000. And it'll probably be 5, 6, or 7 companies that comprise it. And that is probably some kind of a public merger as an exit. Some large golf company or some large entertainment company, Gaylord Entertainment, companies like that who might come in and do a merger. Being the CPA that I am, I'm obviously tax conscious. So I would like to guide my shareholders and the ownership families into something that's tax deferred or has tax advantages to it. But I think that the basic equation of what we're doing, the basic equation of what you're doing in Bitcoin, it's P times G equals V. Profits times growth equals value. And so the profits have to be good and solid. The growth curve has to be aggressive but conservative. It has to be aggressive but responsible, and you result in good value. And so that's really what we're doing here. And this transaction that you've brought to us uh, seriously propels these growth and value concepts.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about an event that we have coming up at Lubbock, Texas to kick off the college football season, the Podcaster Summit Live. We've got a beautiful venue to work out of. We've got 60 golf bays that we're turning into podcast bays. We've got 2 days worth of podcast content being created. We've got the college campus kids coming in. We've got an opportunity zone where companies are coming in and talking about their side hustle opportunities. We got a wellness lounge where people can learn about health and wellness, everything from cold plunge to red light therapy. What does that mean for Golf Suites?
Well, I think it's certainly promotional and it's revenue generative, but I think in untypical of any of our competition in any form of food and beverage, it just injects us into the community with, frankly, some concepts that are a little more meaningful. And I think it's going to, simply put, I think it's going to surprise the hell out of the community. I don't think anybody does this. And of course, our facility is perfect for it because it's such a luxurious. The Lubbock facility is one of the finest we'll ever have, and it's just a Xanadu. It's just a Hearst Castle, as it were, in terms of everything that it offers. It'll be a wonderful venue for it. So it's first of its nature. We have never done something like this, Chris, and so hopefully it's the commencement of a new trend that we do at all our sites as time goes by.
Well, we've seen podcasting blow up over the last 5 years. And last year, it had a significant role in electing the president of our country, Donald J.
Yes. Yeah.
Podcasting is a great way to tell your story. Literally, in the last 45 minutes, you and I have had the ability to tell a very deep telling story about everything that's available inside of this transaction. You can't do that with a 30-second video on Instagram, or you can't do that with a TV commercial. So
Right.
I actually think that podcasting is going to be the best, but actually is the best long format ad unit for people's personal brand and corporate brand, product brand.
Yeah. Well, I'll follow your lead in that.
Well,
I'll
listen,
follow your
Jerry,
lead.
I think we've covered a lot today, and we're going to do this again and again and again. In fact, people are going to get either sick of seeing you or me talk about this project over the next 90 days. But
Well,
I think it's important that people have a chance to reach out with questions via social media to ask you and your team. I
absolutely.
think it's important that they get these type of podcast interviews where you go slowly through all the intricate parts of it. And when you really think about it, it doesn't matter if somebody stakes $10,000 worth of Bitcoin and takes a small piece of the commercial note, or somebody stakes $1 million worth of Bitcoin and takes a significant piece of the note. At the end of the day, you're building a community of people that replace the bankers with individuals who are now getting the benefits and perks of being a part of your future growth and success.
Yep. Yep. Indeed. And the yield, of course, it's tax incentivized. It's much higher than they get elsewhere. And so it has multi benefits. And
So,
we're excited. And frankly, Chris, as I've told you, the more the merrier. Our motto here is an investor at $10,000 is every bit as important as an investor with 10 million. There's no difference.
well, I got news for you. I do know one thing. There will be people that break up their investment into multiple small pieces just so they can get their hands on one of these.
Yeah, probably.
And that's going to build a massive community of people that have a vested interest in the future growth and success of both ERC and Golf Suites. And
Yep.
you can use that community to help spread the word on social media. They become a social media army.
Yes. Yes, they do. That's a phenomenal side benefit, indirect benefit of probably will have great dollar value to us, far beyond just the making of the loans.
I see what you just did there, and that was a subtle way of referring to me as a genius again. I see how you did it without actually mentioning the word
Well,
genius.
I'm not even trying to be subtle here. I mean, you're the smartest genius I've ever met. I've met a few. I've met a few. So
All right, Jerry. One last thing you're going to tell people about life. Usually like to end a podcast with some sort of message to people, whether they participate in your business or not. I want you to tell people about how you've overcome fear in your life. A lot of people are afraid to take risks. A lot of people are afraid to take that leap of faith and believe in themselves. You have taken risks. You believe in yourself. You believe in your team. How do you overcome fear?
you know,
Not say text Chris all the time. That's not a solution. I don't
yeah,
want to do that.
I think that productivity is the basic function of morale. I notice in myself. Chris, I'll wake up at 2 in the morning worried about stuff. I'm sure you do too. We all have the quirks. Wake up, oh, how's this going to go? The minute we get down to the desk or get on the phone and get working, it just seems to go away, and you push through it. We've all made mistakes. I can't make a list a mile long, but those mistakes help build who and what we are. There's people out there somewhere in this country who don't like me, of course. And I've got quotes here. You can't see them now, but I'm loaded with Winston Churchill, Mark Twain, just Harry Truman, all about what you learn from failure, and you have to push through. You have to just push through, and that's what all of this is. And when I met you on the first phone call, I didn't have the slightest idea what you were talking about. Here we are now, 90 days later, embarking on it.
So how do you overcome the fear? You just get busy, you get to work.
For me, that's what works. But real busy doing real stuff, not stupid stuff. I don't do well idle. I don't do well, and as I tell my wife at
Your
times and
motor
others
does
around.
run hard, I can tell you that. I've seen a lot of
Well,
lazy people in my lifetime. You're not lazy.
yeah, it, I have many times I have more on my mind than I have to do, and that's because I've got such a wonderful team around me, and so and your mind will wander and so forth, but you just always come up with a solution and push along. So we think we're going to build a couple of billion-dollar companies here, and this financing here will go down without a doubt as being the key catalyst that made it happen.
Let me ask you one last question. Kind of like blends in with what you just said. How important does faith matter to you in your life? And when I say faith, you could be faith in God or faith in yourself, but how important does faith matter to you?
You know, it's funny you bring that up because
Well, it
I'm
is
a
Sunday.
well, yeah, and of course we're breaking the fourth commandment, as you know. But I mean, it's the I happen to be. I hope this isn't controversial, but I happen to be a big fan of Robert Kennedy Jr. You talk about courage. He made a talk. I don't know when it was, but it was on Instagram, and he said, the concept of faith, just the concept of faith in something senior to self, is more important than what you have the faith in. It was kind of what you just said, and I was raised Jewish, Irish Catholic mother, Jewish father. People talk about my holidays. I said I had Hanukkah. I celebrated Hanukkah in front of a beautiful Christmas tree. I mean, I had the best of both worlds. But I mean, it's, I personally don't think about it enough, to be quite frank. I'm thinking about it more having spent time with you and seeing your Instagram posts every day. But it has to be faith that has driven me through this. It has to be. I must admit, I might have been a little unconscious or not as conscious as it should be. But that Robert Kennedy Jr. quote is really quite succinct. It's the concept of faith itself more important than what the faith is in. I mean, you understand what he said there? It's amazing.
Yeah, I think the hand of God, I always tell people the hand of God works in mysterious ways, but I see it clear as day. Like the only reason you and I are together, connected, is because the hand of God had nothing to do with Vince introducing us. It was literally meant to be. God saw you in need, and God brought me into your life.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Jerry, I'm glad we had this chance to chop it up today. I promise you, we're going to do many more of these. You are going to
My
be
pleasure. I
a
love it.
believer.
Love every minute of it.
We're going to chop this up into smaller clips, share it on social media. You're going to share it on social media. People will get little bite-sized nuggets of 30-second, 60-second, maybe even 2-minute sound bites where they can learn a little bit at a time. I consider it like tic-tac production, where you literally give people a tic-tac of knowledge.
Yeah, good.
All
Well,
right.
thanks for having me.
Boys and girls, Jerry Ellenburg.
Here's to many more. Okay.